Okay, so 6 people is quite hard to moderate, but it's, you know, as I said, amazing lineup to talk about China. So we've got the 3 platforms, we've got the 3 international companies doing great business in China. What I wanted to do first is ask you all to introduce yourselves, say a little bit about who you are, what you're doing in China, and then when we get to the 3 platforms, we'll talk about some business models. So if we can start with our international friends first, who you are, what you're doing in China, business model.
My name is Patrick Murphy. I'm the CEO of a company called Catalyst Media Group. We're part of a bigger group called RSC, which is based in the United States. And our main project is that we own and we develop an international football tournament called the International Champions Cup, which is basically a pre-season soccer tournament which features the best clubs in the world playing right across the planet. We had matches this year in Canada, the United States, Mexico, the UK, Italy. And for the first year, we brought the International Champions Cup out to Asia Pacific. So we had a competition in Australia with a winner. And we were very proud to work with LeTV to bring a leg of the competition to China, where we played 3 matches in China over the summer.
Now, this is a very good point. I forgot to do this. Everyone on this panel works with each other in some way. Now, it doesn't mean that the Chinese sports business is incestuous, but I think what is good to find out is how do you work with other people on this panel so everyone knows how people are linked and the relationships.
Okay, so the first relationship is between me and Jasper. I was Jasper's boss, and I hired Jasper to come and work for me at News Corp in 1995 in Hong Kong. Jasper's also the godfather of my first child, so that's how we're connected.
I can't ask him any tough questions.
This is very incestuous. And we work very, very closely, obviously, with LeTV. We're very proud to be their partner on developing the International Champions Cup in China. And that's the immediate connection on this panel.
Brandon.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brandon Snow. I'm the Senior Vice President of Marketing Partnerships at the NBA in China. I've been with the NBA for about 6 years. I've actually been running our sponsorship business in China since March, but I've been involved in the market here as well as all of our international business for the last couple years. I actually have a connection with all 3 of you guys. Sam and I used to work together. We've actually been partners then with all 3 of these fantastic companies here on stage. And as many of you know, we've just recently consolidated our digital business with Tencent, but we are still partners with Sina, and particularly with all of our players being on their social media platform. Great to be here and happy to provide any insights I can into our business in China.
And hey, congratulations! The rumored value went from 500 million to 700 million.
Yeah, maybe that was the RMB. I don't know what happened there, but something happened with the RMB.
That was awesome, Melissa.
I'm Melissa Pine. I'm the Vice President of Asia Pacific for the WTA and also the Tournament Director for the WTA Finals here in Singapore, which is the crown jewel event, year-end season finale of the WTA. The WTA is the leading professional global sport for women, and we have 55 events in 33 countries around the world, with our female athletes competing now for over $130 million in prize money per year. We're in a unique position because Asia Pacific is actually our biggest market right now. Huge growth here. We have 2 offices in this region, and about 40% of our global tour is staged here in Asia Pacific, with 10 events in China alone. So, we've certainly been capitalizing on the success of Lina and really looking to grow our business further, in China being a key market. As well, we do work closely with Sina. All of our athletes have accounts, and as well with our events in Zhuhai and Beijing. And WeChat, we just recently opened a WeChat account, capitalizing on fan engagement, very, very important for the fans in China.
Okay, so now Sam, we heard from you yesterday. So I think the new guy to the panel, Sam Lee, tell us a little bit about yourself, and I think go a little bit deeper and let's talk about your business model as well, just to introduce Sina to the world.
Of course. My name is Sam Lee. I'm with Sina Sports. I'm the head of content acquisition and strategic partnership. In terms of the relationships here, Brandon and I used to work together at the NBA, and obviously I work with Melissa here on WTA events. Sina Sports is the leading digital media sports platform in China. We have over 100 million viewers on a monthly basis, and we have over 30 million viewers on a daily basis. We've been around for about 17 years now. We were the first digital media sports company in China. We were the first at the Olympics. We were the first at the World Cup in terms of the media press coverage that we provided. Our platform is a little bit different, I would say, than Tencent and LeTV in that we are really a comprehensive media coverage company. And in addition to live content, we send our reporters worldwide to cover the major events. We have very loyal fans who come to us on a daily basis to not only watch live games, but also to consume content outside of the live content that we have. In terms of live content, we do have Champions League, English Premier League, as well as a host of other sports.
Ad funded? Is it ad funded? Is it?
Yeah, so we're completely advertisement funded. We don't have a subscription based model.
Okay, Sam 2.
Okay, so I'm Sam Xie from Tencent. I guess most of you already heard my presentation yesterday. Tencent is the biggest internet company in China in terms of market cap. Tencent is more dynamic. If you compare to other companies, that Tencent does not only have the media side, but it also has its social network and also the online gaming, which is our biggest cash cow. And also we have, besides social media, and online gaming, we also have other technology like antivirus, browser, all those business. So pretty much Tencent is a bigger and comprehensive internet company, but definitely sport and media is one important part of Tencent. And for the relationship, of course, right now we are the exclusive new media partner with NBA for the next 5 years, and I work with I think, well, other media rights like Premier League and also Bundesliga. What else? UEFA Championship, all those sports property.
There's one broadcasting organization we didn't mention. That's the one that kind of covers the entire country and goes into every single household, and that's CCTV. Where is CCTV in all with sport and everything that's going on now with these emerging mega platforms that aren't just in China but coming out? Can anyone talk about CCTV?
I can, yeah. We've been a partner of CCTV for almost 30 years. It goes all the way back to actually our former commissioner, David Stern, had the foresight to actually put tapes on a plane, an Air China flight that came to Beijing, and dropped them off at the office at CCTV and showed the NBA finals the next day. And we've been a partner with them ever since. And they're critically important to the reach of our business. We had, I think last year alone, we had over 700 million, the numbers are staggering, unique views of our NBA games in one season. And so for us, and in fact, last week we had a partner forum in Shanghai with all of our partners. We actually had Tencent and CCTV on stage together, talking to our partners about how we are working together, how this is second screen viewing. I mean, I heard a lot yesterday about cord cutting and the death of TV, but I'm here to say, at least from our business standpoint, TV is definitely still there. People aren't necessarily cutting that cord in China. And I think there are definitely ways that this kind of TV-driven CCTV piece can work very well hand in hand with the new media and the growth of digital in the market.
So, I mean, we've got the three platforms here. There's also PPTV. So they're all really complementing each other?
Look, there's definitely things happening. There's definitely a shift. I mean, I think last year, 4 million people streamed the NBA Finals on their mobile device. but there's definitely second screen going on here, right? There's people interacting on the second screen while they're watching the game, and it's just hard to kind of deny the fact that you have a tremendous amount of reach with a partner like CCTV, and particularly when you're looking at numbers as staggering as those, they're a critical component to how we reach our fans.
I mean, they've basically been there forever, obviously. I think when we started together in Asia in the early 90s, they were definitely the main game in town, and in many ways they still are. In those days, we used to go in and do rights for production deals with Magoli for the China Tennis Open in 1993 and the China Golf Open. You'll remember all those events. And they really, alongside the provincial channels, because that is the other alternative TV distribution network that you had in China, they were really the only game in town until around 2005, 2006. Around that time, you had video, internet emerging. I think we did our first deal 2006 on the Champions League.
2006, when we do I spent 10 years in Sina Sports. So I think, if I'm right, I think in 2006 is a symbolic year that first is the FIFA World Cup began to selling new media rights in China. SMG bought the rights for 4 minutes highlights per match. It can be seen as a new media emerging period. Then Sina got the Champions League rights, the VOD part, on showing on Sina Sports. I think it's kind of a broadband that really go into the market.
Yeah, that's right, and that was a very interesting moment. I think Yasu Akabe is here in the audience somewhere as well, who works with me at Team during the Champions League, was trying to prize those rights away from CCTV, because we'd basically worked with them on an exclusive basis, and we spent many dinners and lunches with Mr. Zhang trying to convince him that taking these new media rights away and basically allowing Sina in was something that was okay, and he did agree to that. But I think the very sophisticated companies like the NBA, you guys pretty much worked with everybody, right? You worked with the prudential channels and CCTV and the digital channels.
Yeah, it was to your point. I mean, it's a holistic approach, and it's not just CCTV. We're with all the regions, a lot of regional to have the coverage. But again, I feel like it's very complementary in terms of the strategy. I mean, we are obviously going to have a very robust digital offering with Tencent and the power they bring to bring all of their assets together to really drive engagement with our fans is tremendous. I mean, particularly on the things they're doing in studio. I mean, these guys have created a tremendous new studio, both digitally and real, that they're going to be streaming up to 600 of our games, I think, next year. So, but it's
600.
Yeah, so that is still combined with all the games we're going to have on CCTV. It's again, I think it's complementary. It's not an either-or situation.
Sam, what's the business model on something like the NBA? Are you charging pay-per-view? Is it ad-funded? Is it subscription-based?
We have both. Mainly, current business model in China, I think, mainly still would be like Sina said, it's ad driving. But we start to move in little bit by little bit, moving more and more to the subscription basis, and that's Tencent has been successfully doing that for the past 12 years, but not on sport, but on music and other things, or avatar, all those stuff. Tencent is the company who is famous for how we can charge each individual users, to let them pay 2 RMB, 3 RMB, 1 RMB, or 10 RMB per month, monthly subscription for little things like privilege on playing online games, privilege to get in your avatar, dress up, all those stuff. In recent years, we've been very successfully to launch a service called Tencent Hollywood monthly subscription for our online entertainment subscription, mainly for, we work with Warner Brothers, one of the big company, that to introduce movies and TV series. So we're gonna keep this momentum and use our expertise on how to charging, how to engage or educate users to pay individually to our service in sport. So we're moving on that, and I'm pretty sure that we're gonna have a subscription basis for our NBA.
And you said based on the music services, from your learnings from the music services?
I'm sorry?
Did you say based on your learnings from the music service?
Yes, not only in music, but our Hollywood subscription and gaming, all those stuff that we have expertise on that. So we hope that pushing the user to get used to pay for sports content. Like I think the beginning of this morning, that gentleman said that the biggest winner for sport is the fans. They don't pay for nothing, but I think they start to pay right now, little bit by little bit.
Okay, slightly off brief. Just thinking about this, I was at an event in the US recently where we had YouTube and Victor Koo on stage. And the head of YouTube said, we are 50% mobile. And Victor Koo got up and said, well, we're about 80. What percentage for the three platforms, what percentage of your business is now being viewed on mobile platforms? So out of home, on the phone, on tablets?
From what I can understand, the LeTV platform, especially on sports, I think over 60% of the content being consumed on either through our website or through our apps. I think it's more and more we see the trend users from the traditional PC platform to mobile platform. But we are different since we also have a smart TV, so we see the big screen experience is still dominant in the total experience for the sports fans.
So you think people still want to watch sport at home with their friends,
if there is a premier content, I think they still choose to watch a live game on the big screen platform. But we see the trend, more and more people using their tablets, mobile phones.
How about Sina on that?
Yeah, I would say mobile is definitely a majority, probably close to 60% as well. And going back to the CCTV question, I think that's why it's kind of a complementary to us that we're not really in competition with them, because when the major games do get picked up on CCTV, then our platform really, whether it's mobile or PC or our mobile app, it really becomes a second screen experience. We had a Chinese soccer league game last season that was shown on CCTV, and we chose not to show it live. And through our second screen experience, we had over 1 million fans on our app just watching and interacting with each other through that.
So what is that experience? Is you showing exactly the same game, or are you showing different aspects?
Yeah, so we're not showing the game live. We're not showing the live game content, but we're showing stats. We're showing up-to-date text messages and photos, and also fan messages, and fans can interact with themselves. And also, really the most important messages would float to the top, and fans can see and really get their opinions out there.
Cool. And Tencent mobile?
Yeah, actually, if you go for the App Store in China, there's always like top 10 of the application. There's like 3 of them is from Tencent. WeChat for sure, because WeChat doesn't exist on web page, on the computer. It's only on PC. It has 600 million active monthly users. Second is what's the second one? Oh, QQ, mobile version of QQ. And then Tencent News, which is always the top of the news apps in China, have more than 400 million monthly active users. I'm sorry, not 400 million, sorry, 60 million. Sorry, a big difference.
It's still quite a lot of people.
60 million.
That's about the population
users.
of the UK.
And then video app,
minus
mobile video app. So definitely, right now Tencent probably I think most of the important business is moving to mobile, especially the mobile game. We are the #1 mobile online game. We are the #1 in the world, and we are the biggest than the number 2, 3, 4, 5 add up.
So for producers in the room that are interested in bringing content into China, you've got to think not just about the big screen, but you do have to think about versioning for smaller screen experiences as well.
Yes, people now, more and more, they don't have, I think, people might still sitting in front of TV to watching World Cup final, something like that, or some important NBA games like Rocket to Lakers, if they have time, or that time is actually happened there at home. But normally, people consume content more and more is from their mobile phone.
Just to add one thought to that, which is I think one of the challenges a lot of the international sports brands have in China is just the time of when the games are on TV, right? And so, you know, whereas a lot of the European football clubs, they definitely have the opportunity to be in more prime time, where you can get more people watching in the big screen. I mean, our games are airing at, I think you heard earlier, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. So clearly, mobile is important because of what people are doing on a Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. And so we need to be in that place. And I think all of us have those challenges because of just by pure nature of when everything is being shown live here, when it's shown live.
So the NBA is therefore responsible for the decrease in productivity of China's workforce because they can now watch games whilst they're supposed to be at work.
Yeah, no one worked in our office during the NBA Finals. It was pretty much shut down.
By the way, we are going to be throwing to questions in a bit. So, you know, this rare opportunity to have such an amazing panel. Please do get some questions ready for them. We've talked about broadcast, we've talked about mobile, we've talked about business models. You mentioned that you've just done some big football matches in China. Melissa, you were saying that you've got 10 tournaments in China. Let's talk about the live experience. How important is the live experience in China?
Well, I think obviously the Chinese fans have been watching, in my case, European football for many, many years. They've been enjoying it on television and on internet and mobile. And what they really want to do now is they really want to be able to touch it, see it, feel it in their own backyards. European clubs have been coming out to China for a long time. We actually did some of the very earliest games. You'll remember Arsenal in Beijing and again 1995. But traditionally what happened was those football teams would come out and play against local sides. And I think this was something that worked very well in the late 90s and the early noughties, right through the noughties. But what we've seen now is a real strong interest and demand from the fans to actually see the best playing the best. I don't think the fans are that interested. Certainly we saw examples of this summer in China where the international teams playing local teams, those matches just didn't perform very well, whereas the best of the best matches performed extremely well. So there's a huge appetite for it. The fans, as I say, want to see the absolute best of the best, and I think it's a tremendous opportunity going forward. Probably the only challenge that we face is that there isn't enough supply of clubs. You know, there's only 10 or 12 clubs that the Chinese fans are really interested in seeing, so it's maybe more of a supply issue than a local demand issue.
Melissa?
Yeah. For the WTA, live events are hugely important. I mean, it's really the base of everything we do. And when we opened an office in Beijing in 2008, that was where our footprint in China started. And at the time, we had 2 events, one being the China Open, which is one of our major 4 events globally. And, you know, about a year or 2 later, Lina emerged. She won the French Open. There was something like 134 million viewers, one of the highest viewed sporting events in history. And luckily, we were already there. We had the infrastructure built, and we were able to ride on that to grow and develop the sport. And I think from that, we've had new events popping up every single year, now to have about 10. And that's 8 in mainland China, as well as Chinese Taipei and Hong Kong. So I think for China in tennis, live events are hugely important for the development. Now that Li Na has retired, you know, who's next, and how are they going to come up with the next Li Na? And there's a correlation between the amount of events that a country has and the growth and development of the sport. And why is that? Because you're bringing these global stars, you're bringing these icons into town, into your city. People can actually see them, touch them, get close to them. And that's hugely important for inspiring the next generation, encouraging people to pick up a tennis racket, play the sport. It also showcases, you know, cities globally and shines the spotlight on, you know, China as a destination and as an innovator. So I think we're definitely seeing that live events are hugely important in development.
Are people paying for tickets?
Yeah, I think the 3 matches we ran in the ICC with LeTV this summer, we sold just under 120,000 tickets. What's maybe more important was the average ticket price, which I won't give out the exact ticket price, but it was around $100 US. So basically, the amount of money that you can make from tickets is very significant. But what's really important in China as well is that it's a great ad market. You know, we obviously look at running these events in different parts of Asia, and it's actually not, because it's very expensive. What you do and what you do is very, very expensive to bring it into a market. So what's great in China is not only are there great gates, good ticket prices, but there's also, it's also a great ad market. It's a really, really good ad market. So you can sell very significant amounts of sponsorship.
So you did $12 million US worth in ticket revenue on average, but we invite you to our place for Christmas?
We always invite you to Christmas in our place. No, I mean, it's a good business. It's definitely a good business. And as I say, the sponsorship business is very good. And I think the media rights are obviously getting stronger and stronger, so it is healthy. The clubs cost an awful lot of money.
How's this sustainable? You can't expect the top European clubs to come to Asia, China every year, because they're going to get pulled everywhere, right?
Yeah, I mean, we have a slightly different model. Our model is also built on how we can raise money from a local market and can we get an event to wash its face in a local market. But the International Champions Cup really, for us, is about creating a television product. Because I think everybody in the room knows the value of TV rights for premium football are, you know, incredibly high. Champions League is probably $3 billion a year in terms of revenue. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to create an international TV product, which we've managed to do. We sell us pretty much every territory in the world. So we're able to make a revenue stream out of this business that essentially wasn't there before. You know, be a local promoter trying to make an event break even in a local market, but we've created a TV product which adds a layer of revenue.
Just one thought on that. I think the challenge for all international brands trying to have a sustainable business in China is what are you doing beyond just bringing events, right? I mean, you have obviously the TV and the media side is now critical. The digital side, having your product being able to be seen and engaged with on a continual basis, and then having events. We are not able to put on as many as the WTA, so we do a few, because they are incredibly expensive, but it has to just be a moment in time in your strategy for fans to engage. But it can't be everything, because then you're in and you're out. And I think if I'm looking at, from my perspective, I look at the European football clubs as an example, I think they're all trying to figure out, great, it's great to come and play a game, and they get huge numbers and great, but then what happens when they leave? And that takes a lot of investment, a lot of time, and you have to have a really well thought out approach to how you're going to be engaging fans and growing your brand in a market when you can only come during preseason or, you know, doing friendly matches, because for the most part you don't see any regular season games happening yet in this market. So I think it's, and that's where the digital side and the engagement of being able to put your content out in many different ways, having custom-made content that's created just for this market, that's not just bringing stuff in, but actually creating it here that's made for local Chinese fans, is, I think, critical to having a sustainable model beyond just bringing an event in when you can only do a few a year.
Yeah, I want to add some words after what Brandon said, that even during the, like for NBA right now, even before the season starts, there's no regular game, but we already start doing a lot of promotion for NBA and let the fans be prepared that the season's coming. We do a lot of, for right now it's the off season, so the stars come to China. We have a lot of players come to China to visit different cities, and we always follow them using our online community interaction, let fans, if you cannot go to that venue by yourself, then you can do it online, because a venue, I mean, you only can take like 2,000 people, 2,000 fans, but you have millions of people can do it online. They can see the movie, the superstars actually coming to the city they live. They feel the connection between themselves and the player and the team. So it's very important. Plus, there's a China game every year that the two NBA teams gonna play in China. This year is in Shenzhen and Shanghai. So all these factors give us something that we can work on during the off season. So when the season comes, that it's already have the belonging, the fans would automatic go follow those teams.
So there's a connection.
It's a connection, yeah. Connection is very important. Otherwise, I mean, you can see that when Yao Ming is in NBA, I mean, most of the people follow NBA because Yao Ming was in NBA at that time. Right now, there's no Chinese player in NBA, but because they already adapt the connection, so it still remain very strong. And NBA is still the #1 sport in China, not both on TV and on internet. I mean, if you do the survey, people follow NBA the most.
So it's a very obvious thing to say, but being there is really important.
Yes. Yeah, I think everyone agrees that live events are important, but again, you can't host as many live events as you would like to. And obviously, for China Open with Melissa, what we try to do is provide a comprehensive coverage of that event so that the fans that don't get to go to the games are still be able to, on our platform, follow the players who are coming so that we can provide interviews, we can provide behind the scenes type of footage to them so that they still feel that connection to those teams, to those players who are coming. And another initiative that we're pushing out is with regards to individuals, international pundits in European football. And so we've signed on Michael Owen as well as Carlo Ancelotti to be our ambassadors and to really reach out to the fans on a very regular basis, on a weekly, bi-weekly basis, where they can interact with the fans, and they can sign merchandise, they can answer questions from the fans.
In Chinese?
That adds
in
to
Chinese.
right, and yeah, with subtitles and all that. So we're able to bring the fans closer to the game.
Yeah, I mean, at the WTA, it's a huge strategic priority for fan engagement, not only in stadium, but online as well. And I think, it just goes to show, all of the top WTA players, Serena Williams, Maria Sharapova, as you saw, on the slides earlier, all have, Chinese Weibo accounts and are communicating with their fans in China year-round, and that's very, very important as well. I think just on the whole, live events and having numerous events in market, I think the WTA, we're fortunate to have both, public and private sector support in China, and really it is about legacy building, and the government is investing a lot of money in infrastructure, developing tennis courts, stadiums, and this money goes into the infrastructure for an event. But then when the event is over, year-round, it's used for kids to come out, have clinics, play tennis, coaches to be able to utilize the course and facilities. So I think a lot of it is investment going in from municipalities, governments for long-term sustainability and for youth to be able to play.
And there are now a lot of Chinese players on the circuit, right?
Yes, definitely. I think
Chinese golfers as well, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, WTA Rising Stars is also one of our strategic focuses right now in kind of promoting the next generation, because people say, oh, who's the next big thing and who's the next Li Na? I think right now there's about 6 players that are ranked in the top 125 in the world coming out of China. Our WTA Rising Stars, Zheng Saisai, was here last year for the WTA finals. And we're continuing to see more and more. So certainly there's a big push for the next big star.
And by the way, that's huge. Like having more local stars, that's where they're connecting, right? So every one of us are focused on youth development, trying to find the next, because it's that connection. They're tremendously kind of connected to the superstar, in particular when it comes from there.
But you want to send them to America.
Yeah, but that's...
You want to keep them on the tour, right?
But it's kind of the same. At the end of the day, they're connected to the local store because of it's a person that grew up in China, and we're all looking for that, because that connection that they have then allows us to kind of grow our business in this market. Whether they play in another country or whatever, when you can bring that star, like we're bringing Jeremy Lin with the Charlotte Hornets. I mean, it's crazy what happens when he shows up. And we all are looking for those next things, those next big things, because that local connection, the connection with the Chinese fan is critical, and that brings it. And I think you guys have got it spot on with your superstar, and you've got, in youth development is something all of us are trying to do to find the next level.
I think something worth saying, though, about live events in China is that it's actually very difficult to do them, especially when you're doing them on a very big scale. I mean, even as an international company, it's actually not possible to just go in, set up a company, and run events yourself. You've got to have a local partner, but I think it always is good to have a good local partner anyway. But everything from sanctions, can be complicated and expensive. The stadiums are actually pretty good. The infrastructure is pretty good, but what you might have to pay for the infrastructure can be a lot. Security is a huge issue. Yeah, I was going to say security is a huge issue. It's something that varies from city to city, province to province. Accreditation. Anyone who's run an event here knows, how kind of crucial accreditation is. I think our games in China, the accreditation systems were changing 3 or 4 times in the afternoon before the match. So just operating an event in that kind of environment is extremely tough. So it is very challenging. Getting permits to land private jets, or in Real Madrid's case, an Airbus 380 in Guangzhou. All of this stuff is incredibly difficult, but it's worth it. And my sense is that it will get easier to operate those events actually very quickly, because it's not difficult out of badness. I think a lot of it's just difficult out of the background of where people are coming from.
I mean, I think obviously with ICC and NBA and WTA, these are huge events, and we are working to run some of these events ourselves. But I think also on the grassroots level, there are a whole range of events that can be operated, and we're operating some of those right now. So, for example, marathons is a much easier event to operate than say an NBA game, and then also we're doing our own grassroots 3-on-3 basketball tournament, which really just requires basketball courts. It doesn't really need an audience until the final stage. So there are different ways to run events. I mean, obviously they're big events, but there are also smaller events as well.
So there's a lot of event organizers here who are just about to enter on their Expedia trip to Beijing. So you're saying you've got to have the right partner. You've got to have it's not just it's not as easy as doing an event in Singapore. You turn up, you've got a fantastic government, fantastic venue infrastructure. It's
every city, every country you work in, you have different challenges. We organised the ICC in Australia pretty much at the same time as the one in China. We were operating in arguably the most sophisticated events market in the world. But guess what? It was winter. There was a lot of rain. The training pitch, the actual pitch of the MCG, which is where we played 3 games, was not in pristine condition. Real Madrid did not like that. Roma did not like that. Manchester City didn't like that. So every market you work in, you're going to have challenges. There are certain things that in China that are actually just joy to work with. Like, for example, it's possible to put on 4 massive football matches with about 5 months preparation, which is what Hang and I actually had to do. You can do that in China. You could not have done that in Australia.
Surely it's just a big brown envelope.
No. One of the really good things, in my opinion, about what's happened in China at a kind of big level in the last couple of years is that a lot of that has disappeared. I've only been back in that market for the last 2.5, 3 years, and I haven't actually seen any of it, and I've been told that a lot of that has gone. Jasper actually used to carry the money in the brown envelope from Hong Kong up to Beijing back in 1995.
So I don't think any of us have any idea what you're talking about, by the way.
Actually, the money was used to pay the journalists, right? To cover the press conference. You'd have a press conference, the journalists would all come, and they would all be given lunch and some cash, and they would basically write exactly what was in the press release. Right? That's how it used to work. So that's what I'm talking about, brown envelopes.
And that wasn't illegal?
No, it wasn't illegal. But what's really refreshing is I think that has really, things seem to have changed there an awful lot in the last couple of years, which is really great.
By adding to Patrick's point, we worked together this summer. Is actually the first big event LeTV Sports is being involved. We really learned a lot. We were being told that the sanctioning system being changed, there won't be any sanctioning procedure for the event at that level, at international football friendlies. But actually, when you go in deep, you find everything still keeps the same. We see the improvement, and it's getting better, which we can feel, but there is still difficulties. My view on the local event, is more on the brand part. If we say in the past, in 1995, when AC Milan, Arsenal, they came to Beijing to play one game and leave, basically they left nothing there. So there was no connections, there was no loyalty. Even for money, there was a small margin. Then we feel that it goes to a difficulty period for 5 to 6 years. People feel that friendly games in China will be very challenging in the way whether people will pay for that, and whether sponsorship comes to cover the cost. So we feel that brand of those kind of event is been very important for, like the ICC is a good event, is a regular event every year with top European teams being involved. China Open in Chinese is a very good event. In Beijing, it takes almost 10 years to become maybe the #1 local event in Chinese in China. NBA is the same thing. So the brand is very important in China if you want to do local events.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think you got to demonstrate that you're making a long-term commitment, right? And what you're doing with creating this brand and making sure that it's coming back every year, you know, keeps that excitement. People know that it's not just a one and done situation,
right?
Because it is hard, because these things are crazy expensive, and so I think it's just another way to demonstrate that you are kind of investing and building it, and not having a situation where you're just kind of taking advantage of the market by being there and out, sell some tickets and then go. But it is a challenge to figure out what is that long-term strategy for the brands. We're a little bit different in that we manage all of our brands. So when you see those numbers up there earlier, it says NBA, but that's kind of all of our brands collective, and the rest of them were singular football brands, right? Because we're structured differently. So, but you got to have something. Events is just one other platform in your strategy to have a long-term presence in the market. Because if it's just events based, ultimately it's not going to be sustainable.
So we've talked about football, we've talked about basketball, we've talked about tennis. I mean, 3 powerhouse global sports. What else is happening in China? Outside those 3 sports, what are the platforms seeing from other sports?
Start for me? Okay. I think that it's not which type of sport, as Yuhan mentioned, and Sam Lee mentioned that jogging and running is getting popular. Yuhan mentioned the biking is getting popular. So I think it's no matter what kind of sport, it's the lifestyle start to change. As my presentation yesterday said, that when countries' GDP per capita break through a certain level, people start to care more about their personal health or well-being. So they start to spend time and money to keep themselves, healthy. So they're doing either basketball, football, jogging, running, whatever. It's the whole industry, sport industry, or the lifestyle of that. I think probably 400 million of population. They really into it. As I said on yesterday's presentation, there's 9 cities and provinces. Their GDP capita has reached to 100,000. So when they have that kind of income or GDP, then they become middle class already. With that 9 provinces and city, that's probably like 400 million population. If you have 400 million population, doing a regular, sports activity, the whole sport industry would move up, would break through. That's the big picture. I mean, it doesn't matter which sport you are in, you would cut a piece of pie from that market. It just depends on how good you're marketing, you're promoting your sport in China.
So a big trend in mass participation. Maybe this is why Wanda bought the triathlon. But are you seeing more broadcast coming through? Are you buying more rights around that?
I mean, I think part of the expertise that we have, and also part of it is burden, is to really be able to show and curate to our audience what type of sports are out there, and really, like Sam said, in terms of the marketing, how do we present each sport in their own way, in a way that they should be presented to the audience. I mean, and because the Chinese audience is not. They're not well versed in the global sports that are out there, so they're not experts at the sports that they can pick from to be their favorite sport. So part of our job is to really be able to go in, take a sport that's unknown in China and contextualize that and show that to the fans and say, well, this is what this sport is all about, before buying content and before showing live games. Because really, without contextualization, I mean, the live games don't really mean much, even if it's the most important event in that particular sport.
That's very good. Now, do we have microphones ready? Like gladiators ready. Do we have a question here, Owen? We go herring down the back here, turn right, coming across. We could have microphone running events.
It's got to be
the next global sport.
Good morning. I'm amazed, but not surprised, that badminton has not been mentioned as an important sport in China.
Can you declare who you are, Owen, and who you work for?
I will do shortly. The numbers coming out of China clearly are staggering. What concerns us in the world of badminton is that we are not seeing those numbers in a sport that has 250 million participants in China. So it's more of a statement than a question. And I am the commercial director of the BWF. So there you go.
Okay, so panelists, what would you do if you were given badminton in a box? What advice can you give Owen to grow the sport in China?
Actually, I think we will have a meeting in Sportel. I think I can talk about that later. My view on the sports like table tennis and badminton is they have huge participant users who is easy to play, to participate. But especially on the new media platform, when you see in the traditional way, no matter you see that games on PC or on your mobile, is really challenging since the ball is very small. Like you watch a live game on your mobile phone on golf, it's the same thing, it's very challenging. You see the experience is not that good in the way of broadcasting those kind of event online or on new media platform. But my view is still back to the intention why LeTV Sports play in this role at this time is at the end of the day, from the industry point, you need to have the solid foundation. Where is the foundation? Is the fans. So it's 250 million people who play badminton today will become another 250 who participate either event, no matter it's badminton or football or basketball. So that makes the whole industry booming. Back to Sam's point, which I can't agree more, is the sports industry booming in China now we see as a phenomenon, not only because of the leadership support, not only because of the policies, because of the economy booming or economy development at this level. We see many areas in China regarding to cultural elements like music, like filming, those kind of entertainment area, which is a big picture of belongs to a cultural stuff, is all booming. Not only sports. Sports is part of that, but it's definitely an area that sports going to be like this. It's back to the point that the economy development in China, the situation of the middle class family, their philosophy is really changed. So unless you change people's philosophy on sports, you can't really fulfill your achievement by working in sports to make a better benefit on those industries. So my point back to the badminton is we're very happy to see that there was 250 people participating in events, and we need to increase those numbers to 400, 500. That's the most important thing. No matter you play tennis, no matter you play badminton, it's the same thing. At the end of the day, the industry needs to have a solid foundation.
Yes, and actually, just expanding on that, I think all of us up here would say that whether it's professional badminton or it's professional basketball or soccer or whatever, all of us want to see very strong local sports happen. We want to see the CBA grow and be even better. We want to see all the local products that we're working with, those local leagues, succeed because it brings everything up across the board for all of us. So it's not a competitive situation. We actually want to see growth in the local leagues.
Yes, put some words. I agree with Yuhan that from the broadcast point of view, badminton and table tennis is not good thing for broadcasting.
By the way, we're showing badminton.
Okay, so you're doing the hard work. Okay, but it's definitely it's not that easy to view or not pleasant to view on the mobile phone. So, but go back to the fundamental of sports that, as my presentation yesterday said, that Tencent Sport, we have tools to connecting people with their daily sport needs. Not necessarily from the media side to broadcast it, but to let them use WeChat, the location base, to find a badminton court so they can gather friends to play badminton together. So that's the things we want to drive using the internet tools, let the playing badminton become more easy and more frequent. That's what we can do from the internet side.
Mm-hmm. I'm a badminton player, so I have to comment on this. You know, I think on the global scale, you know, on the top competition, you know, we do cover badminton, and you know, whenever Lin Dan plays Li Chongwei, it's always a big story, and we always get hundreds and thousands of comments. And so I think the interest is definitely there, and I agree with the live broadcast comment earlier. But I think on the grassroots level, you know, we really are looking also to do more grassroots events around badminton, around table tennis. I think PPTV is looking at doing mahjong tournaments even. I mean, these local sports do need participation, but at the same time, really, I mean, I think in China versus the Western world, these grassroots organizations don't quite exist. There is no Nike basketball camp. There is no, you know, none of these things really exist in China. So that's kind of up to all of us here on this panel to build and to create these organizations and to create some of these grassroots tournaments.
I think this goes back to something that Paddy said as well, is about finding the right partner. If you look at, there's a parallel in India called Kabaddi. Kabaddi is essentially a big game of British Bulldog. But the Kabaddi Association in India partnered with Star TV, and it's now one of the biggest sports on TV in a very, very short space of time. It's not necessarily challenging cricket, but it's huge, and it's because they found the right partner to promote the sport. That's just a thought bubble. Any other questions? Down the front here.
Oh. Can I nip in? Andy from Red Card. I think a lot of us in this room, especially the sports content providers in Asia, would be hugely successful if we were allowed to broker either online gaming deals or sports betting deals. Sam has already said that online gaming is a huge cash cow for him. Do Sina or Tencent hold either online gaming licenses or sports betting licenses? And if not, what sort of percentage do you see coming from the sports betting or online gaming partners?
Well, gaming is different from betting, from gamble, okay? Well, for online gaming, you do not need a license. Pretty much, you just develop a game that you send it to Tencent, which is the world's biggest online gaming platform, open platform. So we have thousands, hundreds of games, no matter it's online game or mobile game. You just submit it and pass through our some kind of process to evaluate, then you are on our platform, but you might rank thousands, you know, from the ranking that people don't aware of your game, and not much people playing that, you don't get money. But for the gamble side, I have to say very clear that Chinese government or Chinese laws not allow any gambling. So that's my comment.
Next question.
Hi, Jonathan Castleman from CSM here in Singapore. Firstly, thank you all. It's been a really fascinating panel to listen to. I've got one question. Han, you mentioned earlier that Alibaba is an investor in LeTV, and we saw last week that Alibaba Sports Group was announced, which is Yongfeng, Alibaba and Sina. And I just wanted to know what people's view on that was from the businesses that are going to be involved, and obviously from Tencent's point of view, because it feels like that's in your territory. Thanks very much.
So you don't ask them to answer, ask me to answer?
Can I say...
it has nothing to do with me, actually.
We were hoping that this was the question that wasn't asked, because our learned colleague from Sina is not actually allowed to talk about... It's essentially, it's a press release that's been issued. I mean, other people can comment on what they think it might be, but
I'm just going to leave it right there.
Yeah. So China is still China. It was a very good question, though. Any other questions? Come on, there's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to have all of these. Okay, but I'll ask a question that's kind of sort of based on that. There's 3 of you on stage at the moment. Next year, will it be 2?
I don't think that's true at all. I think we've all demonstrated that our strength and our differences in our platforms. I really believe that. I think that to a certain extent, even without live content, our platform will still be around. We've been around for 16 years. At the very beginning, there was no video, as you guys mentioned. We do provide the most comprehensive media coverage of sports events, and that's what we do. Whether that involves live events or whether that live content, or that's content that either we create or co-produce with the actual content holder. I mean, that's kind of our bread and butter. So we're not really competing kind of in the same space, if you will.
Good answer. Question here?
Well, can I also finish your question?
Yes, sorry.
Okay. Well, I pay full respect to Sina, which is the legend or the pioneer in Chinese online sport, which is, they start, both 2 of you working in Sina, right now and previously. So Sina is definitely some company we respect too, and I don't know other company, but at least Tencent would be still here next year.
I certainly hope so.
Did you get a bank guarantee?
No comment.
It must be about $1 billion by now. I mean, just whether there was a question.
Hi, I'm Isma Nunez, University of Oregon MBA. Thank you for the panel. I have a question for you, Brandon. I'm very interested to your opinion of the franchise system versus the European, because as the NBA, you have to promote the whole sport with all the teams, while European leagues, they have the teams that are promoting themselves in Asia. So do you see any changes? Do you see there obstacles do you want to really take over to increase your sport and increase? And how do you really, when you want to provide content to a local population, obviously you need the national icon, but people really want to rely on a team. Yeah. So when you're really promoting all the teams, how do you choose which ones to promote?
Very carefully. No, I'll try to do it short. I think we obviously have a different strategy in the market with the way that we have collective team rights. So we at the league own and operate and sell collective team rights versus having the teams come individually. We talked about this actually a little bit yesterday. What we do actually has a slightly different model to it in that we're actually seeing a lot of Chinese companies investing with our teams in the US so that when those games are picked up and broadcasted here, they're getting the benefit of that. That we don't get in the way of that, if you will. So as an example, you may see companies like ZTE on a lot of the courtside signage for a Cavaliers game that's being shown in China. But we've taken that approach because we, quite honestly, didn't want to have a lot of teams in the market selling themselves individually. We think there's a lot of value to give back to our partners to be able to give them collective team rights. But we're constantly looking at ways to grow the pie, right? We're constantly looking at ways to find ways to grow the share, and if that means allowing teams to have more ability to sell in a market like China, then we will certainly look at it, and we are looking at it. But right now, we think that the strategy we have enables us, because of the way of our brand. So the last thing I would say on this is we have a unique situation in that if you're a youth in the world today growing up to play basketball, ultimately your goal is to be in the NBA. Right now, if you want to be at the pinnacle of your sport, you're in the NBA. On the football side, there's so many great brands and so many great leagues you can play in and be at the top of your sport. So for us, it still works in a way that because there's a focus to be in the NBA, we want to build that brand along with the teams. But you're absolutely right. The teams and the players are what drive the participation, drive the connection. And so we're constantly trying to find a way to market those. But for right now, it seems to work better for us in the way that we build our brand by having collective teams, collective team rights to our partners rather than focusing on specific brands.
Okay, so we're pretty much out of time. I'm just going to ask the panelists one question now. China and the FIFA World Cup, when are you going to get it? Assuming 18 and 22 won't change. So we'll just take this as a sweepstake, right? So you've got 26, 30, 34, or 38. When will China get the FIFA World Cup?
I think a lot depends on what happens in FIFA in the next few months, to be honest. But maybe that's for a later panel. I'd say 30.
I hope not anytime soon. FIBA actually is coming. I'm going to punt that question.
See, China, no one ever answers a question.
I hope sooner is better.
Sooner. Hank?
I feel the same, maybe 30.
Yeah, I feel probably 30 is better.
I think very soon. What I've seen in terms of sport development in China is mind-blowing. There are cities, sports cities, being constructed right now that no one even really knows about yet. And I think we'll be very surprised how quickly things will take shape.
Okay, so
maybe 2022.
I said, assuming 18 and 22 stay the way they go. Well, look, so we've run out of time. I think we could go for a second hour, but I'm not allowed, even though it's my party. So what I've taken out of this, China is definitely open for business, and there is a lot of money, there's a lot of opportunity. It's still not that easy. You have to be there, you have to have the right partner. 3 of them are here already. Events are absolutely critical. Don't just assume you're going to sell the rights. Having the right platform is critical. But I think the biggest thing I've got out of this is if you don't connect with the fans, then you're not even going to start. So please give a very, very big round of applause for Paddy, Brandon, Sam, Hang, Sam, and Melissa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Coffee.